Peace, y'all, and welcome back to another tea time. You already know the vibes, divine destiny. Sipping on my coffee. What you sipping on? Grab your tea, grab your water, grab your vibe, whatever it is you need to hang out with me and really dive into this conversation, into this little tea time today. Okay, what we talking about? Spirit said it's levels to the spiritual shit. Now, I'm not gonna say that this is like the order everything gotta be in all the time, but just from like what I've noticed on my own spiritual journey and like what I've noticed in other people's journeys and how it begins in the middle and in the end. Okay, I mean, levels to the shit. So like I feel like the first level is like when you begin your spiritual journey, it's very much like your focal point is external. You start to question the world around you. You start to question societal norms, maybe even like close to like your friendship groups, maybe even closer to like your family groups, right? Really recognizing certain patterns, certain beliefs, habits, ideologies that are formed within those group settings that maybe don't necessarily resonate with who it is that you're becoming, growing into, up until this point in your life, right? It's like an external shift, right? You begin to see and connect with the world around you differently. I feel like that's the first level, right? That's the basis level. You start to ask like why, but like why is that a thing? And then you dive into the next level, which is like your focal point turns inward. And when your focal point turns inward, now it's like you're still asking why. I think like you never don't ask why. It's like never not asking why, but like, why am I like this? Why do I react this way? Why did that person saying that to me, or the way that person said that to me, trigger me in some way, right? You start to really look into why you have certain habits and patterns and beliefs and ideologies, right? That's the next level. And I feel like this level right here is where a lot of people fall off, right? Because it's easy to look outside of yourself and be like, point a judgmental finger, which I feel like, they kind of go hand in hand, because you do have to call judgment on certain things, certain aspects, certain people, certain energies, certain places in your life. You do have to call judgment. You do have to say like, I have to move away from this thing, or I have to love this thing from a distance, or I can't be around this thing at all because it's not in alignment with who I am, where I'm going, and what I am doing, right? So it's very easy to call judgment. Well, sometimes it's easier to call judgment on things outside of yourself than when that like focal point shifts inward, and now you're calling judgment on your own mindsets, your own beliefs, your own habits, your own patterns, your own triggers, your own traumas, right? Like that mirror is no longer facing externally and reflecting the external world to you, it's reflecting you. And it's a lot harder for people to look at themselves in the mirror and like face the shadows, face the lower vibrational energies and habits, right? Face the actions, the reactions, the consequences of said actions. Like it's a lot harder for people to look inward within themselves, right? So a lot of people fall off right here in their spiritual journey, or not necessarily fall off completely, but they're just like, I'm just gonna back away from this. I don't actually want to do all of that work. It was cool when I was fixing the outside world, but now that I have to fix the inside world, so like a lot of people, I won't say they like fall off spiritually, but this is where they plateau at like that level, you know what I'm saying? Which is like I'm about to say it's kind of controversial probably, but it's my genuine opinion, so here we are. Welcome to the channel. But I feel like this base level right here that we're at, like that second level of like looking inward, is where a lot of religions keep you, right? You know how a lot of people will say like religion is the fishbowl and spirituality is the ocean, right? Because religion keeps you in that second base level of like inward focal, right? That's your comfort level. That's where you stay, and that's where a lot of people stay. Even if you're not religious, a lot of people stay right there because they don't want to dive too deep into their own depths, right? Like, it's okay to face the mirror of certain aspects of yourself, and then other aspects of yourself are definitely harder to face, right? And depending on how you picked up that aspect of yourself, how it was programmed or conditioned into you, you know what I'm saying? How it wherever it came from, derived from, was nurtured and fed, right? Like, that energy, that aspect of yourself is definitely harder to face sometimes, but we gotta do it if you want to continue moving into the spiritual levels, continue leveling up and elevating spiritually. You have to be willing to even look at yourself in those hard and difficult moments, right? Those experiences that like you shy away from reliving or revisiting mentally and emotionally. Like, you're gonna have to face those things within yourself to elevate higher, deeper, right? To move more fluidly in your spiritual journey, you're going to have to face those deeper, darker parts of yourself. And that's okay. That's part of the journey. But a lot of people stay right there because they don't want to. So it's comfortable to say, especially in religion, it's comfortable to say, like, yes, I see this reflection of myself. I am a sinner, quote unquote. But if I repent for these sins and I ask for forgiveness, then all that shall be washed away, right? And that's kind of like where I feel religion leaves you in the spirituality. Like, yeah, you see this reflection of yourself, but instead of diving deeper into it and doing the reflective work, which is the spiritual part of spirituality, instead of like doing the reflective work, it allows you to stay in a comfortable bubble. You have to dive into yourself to move into the next phase, move into the next level, right? If you get stuck at that second level of like, yeah, I see this reflection, but I'm not necessarily going to dive into doing the healing work of it, then you're not going to elevate into the next level of that shit, right? Okay. Boom. So you move into the next level of it. And moving, I feel like after you move into the next level, after like the inward focus, it's continuously going to be inward focus, right? Because as within, so without. So once you get inward, then you really start to focus on things. And I feel like those level ups are just like you facing different shadows, you overcoming different obstacles, you healing different traumas, healing different triggers. And every time you do another step in your journey of like healing and growth, that is your elevation, that is your level up, right? Because you're meeting yourself in every aspect. The more that you really pour love into yourself and healing energy at every aspect, at every phase, and every trauma, at every trigger, at every moment that your youngest child's inner child self needs healing and love, right? That's every moment, every step of that is you elevating and leveling up and moving into the next phase of ascension on your spiritual journey, right? The thing about that is the more you elevate, the more that you level up. Like, once you get into a certain level of that, you can't unlearn the things you've already learned about yourself, about the world around you, about people around you. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't unsee what you've already seen, which is like the blessing and the curse, the bittersweetness about knowledge. Just like going back to Adam and Eve type shit, like when they bit the apple. Now they seen the veil was lifted, the illusion of like purity of the world was gone. Do you know what I'm saying? So like now you're seeing consciously the world for what it is, and that's a burden. That in itself is a burden because you see the world truthfully. Once you know things, you can't unknow things, right? Once you go past that second level of like recognizing your reflection, once you dive deeper into that and like really jump into healing and learning what created that reflection in the first place, once you get to that place of understanding of what created that reflection, you can't unknow what created that reflection, right? And if you are in the same space of like where you started, the same city, the same state, the same home, the same whatever, energy, mindset, whatever, right? The reflections outside of yourself, you're going to see them for what they are too, and not even on some like malicious energy, right? Not even like they consciously did this, with like recognizing like, okay, your parents, let's say, you gained a certain level of like conditioning or programming, mental instillment, certain habits or patterns or ideologies or beliefs that you hold on to that have been instilled to you because of your family unit, right? So let's just say now that you're coming into consciousness within yourself, now that you're diving deeper within yourself into your spiritual journey, as now that you're unlearning those thought forms or beliefs within yourself, you're also going to recognize those same thought forms, those same beliefs, those same habits, those same patterns within the people around you, right? Within, especially if it's your family or your friends that you've grown up with for a long time, like you're going to start seeing those reflections and how they even became programs within you, within the people around you, right? And that in itself is also hard to do. It's hard to say I have to disconnect myself from my sibling, my cousin, my aunt, my parent, you know what I'm saying? My best friend, my childhood friend, you know what I'm saying? The person who lives across the street from me since I was 5, whatever it might be for you know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard because once you start really accepting your own cycles and patterns and healing them within yourself, then it's like it starts to go back. It's like a push and pull of balance between the internal and external, right? Because as within, so without. So then it starts to reflect again outside of yourself. It starts to reflect in the people, the places you frequent, the habits that you partake in, the substances that you partake in, the energies that you partake in, what you consume, you know what I'm saying, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, like all of that begins to shift and change. And then two, the energies around you that reflect those same aspects or energies that you are healing within yourself become very prominent. And you have to make the decision within yourself, like, can I have this person around me and still be in my alignment, right? Can I accept that they're in this mind space, they're in this mindset, they're in this habit, they continue this pattern, even though I'm stepping out of it? Can I continue to have them in close proximity to me? And that's hard. So a lot of people will fall off here as well because they don't want to have to release the people that they grew up with. They don't want to have to release the people that they love. You know what I'm saying? And when I say like, you don't necessarily have to like end completely a relationship with somebody because you're growing. You know what I mean? Like, and if you're really growing, then you would know how to handle yourself in situations where there are people who are not in the same mindset and frequency as you, right? Because that's life. That's just what we're gonna have to deal with. But the challenge becomes when like the people that are in those mindsets and frequencies that you used to align with are people that you love, because now they have some kind of emotional tie or pull to you. And that makes it hard to release yourself from those things, but it also makes it a little more peer pressure-y to like lean into whatever it is that you know you ain't supposed to be leaning into. So at some level, you do have to pull yourself away from friends and family, but not everybody, right? Obviously, if they're in alignment, if they're supporting you in your growth and your healing, you don't have to move away from those people. But there are definitely going to be people who show up in your life or who have been here forever that you have to take a step back from. You have to love from a distance. You have to give grace and keep moving because they're not in alignment with who it is that you are stepping into. And like the message in the reading this week was everybody can't go, and that's very real. And like the further you dive into your own spirituality, the more you elevate into the levels of this shit. Because like I said, every time you do the healing work in one shadow aspect, every time you pour into that inner child that was triggered by this thing, you know what I mean? Every time you do the work in that trauma area of your life, you're leveling up. right? And these might be micro levels, micro steps to a big level up later, to a big elevation, to a big ascension, right? You're taking those steps every day, but recognizing that the people around you are not always taking those same steps. You feel me? They're not doing the micro steps every day. I'm gonna say this and then I'm gonna get up out of here because my story is just really being a hater right now. But for real, recognize that stepping into new levels means new devils, and those new devils might actually be the people that you've known forever, right? Facing them, you facing the energy within the person that you've known forever that is in direct contrast with who it is you're becoming and where it is you're going, and not on purpose from that person. Well, though sometimes, but like really truthfully, it's like they were also programmed, so this is how they subconsciously run. And now that you're not running subconsciously, now that you are being spiritually led in your own consciousness, right? Now that you're allowing your light to illuminate your energy and you're not just being ran by your fucking shadows, now that you're stepping into that energy, you absolutely have to make the choice of like, can I meet this person where they are?